does.
All right, welcome to week 3 of the buyer workshop. Thank you so much for coming today. And if you're watching this recording, would love your feedback. Please make sure that if you're a new agent and you're just getting to this recording, go back because there is in the playlist on my YouTube channel, there is week 1, week 2. This is week 3, and then there will be week 4. And the reason there's 4 of them is because each week builds off of the other. And there's a lot to take in when you're representing buyers in your real estate business. So if you haven't done week 1 or 2, like I said, just go back. They're in there for you to do. And each week has homework as well. So I'll just get right after it though. Like I want to go ahead and share my screen. And then I'm going to just kind of go back and forth here. I'm going to open up my presentation right here, but I'm not going to make it present mode. I just want you guys to see the slides. So let me go do a quick review real quick. So week 1, we talked about marketing, like how do you even get a buyer? What do you have to do? And we talked about the 4 different ways that buyers come into your world, not the 4, but the top 4. I'm sure there's a ton of other ones, but through people you know, offers you create, you can purchase them, or you do cold calling. Basically, everything falls into one of these categories. That's how you get the buyers. And then I just really went over more details with that. And then we had all this homework from week 1. And then we did week 2. I have a buyer, like one of those offers that you put out or a friend called, whatever, but then you got your first buyer to go work. And now what do you do with this? So we talked about all the different things that you can use to work with those buyers, the whole process, the buyer appointment, buyer packet, set up the search, all of that we talked about in week 2. I also gave you guys homework. All those slides, all that talk in the YouTube channel, week 1, week 2 of the buyer workshop. So now here we are, week 3. So now you got the buyer, you've shown them homes, they raise their hand, and now they say, I'm ready to purchase a home. What does that look like? So this is what I want to go over today. I'm going to go over the zip forms and templates because this is where at Epic Realty in the state of Texas where we do our contracts. So I'm going to be jumping over to this and going over that, but I'm also then going to open up a contract and we're going to zip right through a contract because I do not teach contracts. Let's not make this be about that. That needs to be taught from your broker, from where you get your CE. Like I just want to talk about the details that we need to get from our buyers in order to write the contract. So we're just going to go over a few things on the actual contract. So that's the next part that we're going to do. And then I have some more stuff for you, but let's just start with zip forms. So I'm going to go ahead and open up zip forms. And if you have any questions along the way, just raise your hand and I will get to you and answer any questions or write them down and then I can answer them at the end. So, so let's talk about zip forms. Let's log into zip forms. I'm sure glad that I went in earlier to do this because I had a new login. I had to reset my login and do all this stuff for me to even open up my zip forms. So I've been using zip forms for years and years with my business. This list goes on and on and on and on because I've had my license for over 21 years, but in the state of Texas, I've had it since 2006 or 7. And I've been doing deals ever since. And so I have everything in zip forms. I don't know how far it goes back. I've never tried to see, but this is a great place to go and see all the realtors that you've worked with. If you're doing recruiting, like that's a great idea. I think I'm going to steal that from myself. But anyway, all of your contracts reside in here. And this is one thing, I know there are some other platforms out there that some agents use like Dotloop, like I don't know, some things that integrate with zip forms, but why not just do it in zip forms? Like that's what I always said. I don't like learning a new platform. I'm a minimalist. Like I need simplicity. I want to do it the easiest way possible. And it's just always been easy to keep everything inside of zip forms. So I want to go over a couple of things in here in this main menu bar that you have up here. Whenever I log in, it takes me to this screen. This is my transaction screen, but I don't know why dashboard is highlighted. I never go to that screen. I always end up in transactions. There's two different ways that you could view this screen too. If you click this little button over here, it'll make it a list. But I like this format where you can see the squares. And it just, I don't know, I feel like it gives more detail. So then your profile is here. So you always want to make sure, I don't know why my photo is not in here. I just upgraded or updated everything, but my photo didn't come through. So now I need to go back through and make an upload a new photo. And then make sure that your profile has your current broker in it. That is so important. And then here's the help button. So if you need tutorials or anything, click the help and it will give you whatever you need. So I'm not doing a whole class. I'm trying to show you all best practices in some of this stuff, things that have worked for me for 20 years. So that's what I'm trying to do today. So let's kind of look at this. So all your forms are right here. I never open that. Your transactions are right here. This is them right here. And templates. That's all I ever open in this top menu bar. So templates is super important because I don't like redoing things. And I go in the very beginning and I create a template for a buyer and a listing. This one's a purchase and this one is a listing. So you see that template. So if you don't have these set up, this will be the first thing I take 30 minutes and do is go in here and click new and then do your new template, one for a listing, one for a purchase, and then pull your contracts in. And I'm going to show, and then go even further and go through each one in your template and fill it out so that this is my buyer template or listing template. So these are all of the documents that anytime we get a listing, it pulls in automatically. And you could see as long as you're in the template. So I'm in the template right now. Remember that I am currently modifying a template. And so make sure it says that. Then any changes I make to this listing agreement, see, there's a new form editor. I just keep using this one. They're going to make me go in and learn how to use this one eventually, but I'm going to use this one until the last day probably. But open the form editor and then you could go in and you could add all of the things that are going to be on every single listing agreement so that you don't have to do that every single time. So important. And then any of the other ones that have information on them that you need that you're going to use every time, just go in here and fill it out. And then you're done with it. And the same thing for the buyer template. So get your templates done. That is huge and will save you a ton of time in the future. So now let's go back to transactions. Now that you know that those templates are there, now you log in and let's just say you have a new buyer. That's what this is all about today, is a buyer. So I'm going to create a new transaction for a buyer. And you do that by being in your transactions and clicking new. I'm sure you could get to all this stuff from the dashboard too, but I just find it easier to be in transactions, to click new. I have a new purchase or offer, and I'm just going to do a test one. Okay, so I'm going to do test, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3 test street. And I'm just going to fill this in. And then I'm going to go down here, category, it's a residential. That's all I do. Well, I do some farm and ranch and land, but not really anymore. So status, I guess this means, well, it's going to be active. I never change that. I don't keep track of all of these in here. I just always use active. And then boom, here it is, my templates. Awesome. So I'm going to apply a buyer template. It says Epic Buyer Template. Save. Okay, so now it's going to open up this next tab. Now I'm on this next tab. I just created this one. If I want to go back to the list, I can. That's right here. And then that would pull up all my transactions. But now I'm in this specific transaction and it opens up a sub menu. So this sub menu is 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 here to really help you. So the first thing I do, I mean, you could go through and you know what? Some of you that are watching this are going to be super high detail oriented, and some of you are going to be like bottom line detail oriented and do the minimum. You know, you should always do as much as you can. I wish I had been born with that gene, but I'm more of a bottom line. I'm going to do as little as I can, except for service. Now that doesn't count on service. I'm talking about websites and technology and all that stuff. I'm going to find the easiest way to do it. But when it comes to servicing my clients, I'm going to do everything possible to give them the best service. That's where my time needs to be, not on doing things I'm never going to need to know how to do. So but I'm going to tell you, even with that, this is what I do. One of the most important things is the parties. Go take the time to go in here and fill this out. So you have the buyer. So you're going to do buyer one. When you pop that up, fill out all of this information so that you have it. I don't, this populates as you fill this in, I believe. But once you get that done, just save it. And then you will have that in here. So see, I am the selling agent. Mine's already in here. I don't know how I ever got that in or if it just automatically comes in, but I'm already in here. So when you get your buyer one and your buyer two populated, then they're going to pop in here also. And then what's going to be beautiful about this is when you're done doing that and you go to documents, all of that information from those buyers and your card is going to auto populate into this purchase contract. So, which is right here. So here's the purchase contract. So this is the next thing we're going to go over. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. And boom, there it is. But look, here it already has the property address. Doesn't have the legal stuff on it yet, but it has that. And it has anything that we went in and filled out in the template is already in here, which is not much for a buyer side because you pretty much have to go in and fill out the whole contract from that. But when we get down here to the bottom part, well, it should have all of my broker information, but when I moved to Epic, I just haven't taken the time to go in and fill that out. So I need to do that. But anyway, you get my point. When you fill all of that out in the template, it shows up on every single contract. So now let's go back to my Canvas sheet really quick, because now I went over the templates. So we're done with that slide. So let's talk about the contract now. You've spent some time with your buyer. They've said, we want to make an offer on this one. And most likely they have gone home and you've gone home, you've got with the selling agent, and the selling agent has sent you the seller's disclosure, any details about this property. You've already sent that to your buyers. They've gone over it. They're now ready to make an offer. So I always ask them to please message me the details, ask for the price, the financing details, how much are they putting down, what type of loan is it. Please make sure that you get a pre-approval letter from your lender, and I need that as well, Mr. Buyer. And then, do you have a preference on a title company? I use Corridor Title. Would that be okay with you? However, the seller, well, when you're representing the buyer, they usually have offer instructions on the MLS, so you kind of have to use who they say. But if they don't, I throw in my own title company. And then how long would you like your option period to be? Is it, do you want to do 10 days? And this all just depends on the current market that we're in. Like I've been in every market where I got to where we were doing like 3-day option periods for $300 because you had to do everything you could in your offer to get it to the top of a multiple offer situation. So I had to have these talks with my buyers about what that looked like. And you will too if we get in that market again. God bless us, but I like the market to be a little bit busier than what it is right now, but I think we're about to get there. So, how you got, these are questions that you as a realtor need to know the details about all of these different things. The pricing, like the pricing, you're going to really make sure that you go in and you run your comps after you get back to your office and they go do their thing. Say, you know what, I'll get this wrote up by today at 1. Let me go run some comps, get some details together. I'll ask you some questions and then I'll get it wrote up and be able to send it to you through e-sign. And if you want to go over it, I could do a Zoom with you and we could go over that. Or you could go back and meet them. It's really individual. Like it depends on that individual how you do this. But I never, ever, ever, ever write up a contract in front of a client. I get all of my details up front. And then if they say, well, I want to go over it with you, I offer them to do it in a Zoom or I offer to meet them and go over it after I've filled it out. So get your pricing together. Make sure you're giving a comparable offer. Financing, get their pre-approval letter, the title company. I already went over all that, I know, but I wanted to jump back up to pricing. Home warranty, what kind of market are we in? Do they want to ask for that home warranty to be included in their offer? How long are they going to close? You got to keep in mind what type of financing they're doing in order to know what date, what like you can't do a 2-week closing with the FHA loan. And most likely on a VA loan, you're going to be pushing it uh if you do a 30-day, but it depends on the lender. So I highly suggest that up here back in the financing that you have a conversation with their lender. Hopefully you could get them to get pre-approved through your lender, which we talked about last week. But if not, and they bring you a lender, call that lender, get to know them and let them know you are a good realtor and you're going to be following up with them at all times. Um, okay, so the option period we went over, home warranty, closing date, buyer info. What's their home address, their phone number, their email address? Get that for all the buyers that are going to be on the contract. I'm sure I forgot to put something on here, but now we're going to take this and we're going to jump back over to the contract. Okay, I'm not going to fill this out. I'm just going to go through it. Anything that is blank, you have to fill out. The parties, you get this from the seller's information. The seller, usually if you're on the MLS and you pull up that property, which is usually what I do over in another tab so that I could see all of the details about the property as I'm writing up the offer. But also in additional docs, a lot of times the agents will put in there a sheet with the offer details, telling you what their title company is, telling you any details that they know that their seller would prefer to be on the contract. However, know that the entire contract, if it's blank, it's negotiable. So, but I mean, you got to put the seller's information here, the buyer's information here, and then the land information, that's all on the MLS. So that's why I keep it open in the MLS just on a different tab. And I just go back and forth and I copy and paste almost always so that I don't make a typo. So you just want to fill all of this in. Any exclusions that they have listed on the MLS or in the details on their additional docs in the MLS, you want to make sure you put them here. Your sales price, whatever their down payment is, goes here. And then you always want to click the third-party finance addendum. Or, I mean, these other two are there. It's just not real common these days. Probably getting more common with the loan assumption addendum. and the seller finance addendum in a bad market, those become more used more than the third party finance addendum. But it's typically always the third party finance addendum. And then you're going to put the financed amount here, and then that third amount is going to auto populate. So cash price here, and then here you could do the calculations here too and go in and figure it all out and calculate. I think you can still put the number in here too, though. All right, leases. This is if this property has any leases on it, you have to check what it is. Are there residential leases? If there is a lease on it, including if you're going to ask for a lease to be done, then you're going to want to click that because that means there is a lease attached to this property. Fixture leases, natural resource leases, any of those, whatever is applicable, then you want to go ahead and check it. Earnest money and option. So this is where we put the title company's information and then however much their earnest money is, and it's typically 1% of the sales price. And then, or that goes right here. And then the earnest money goes right here, which is typically $10 a day. In a normal market for $100, you could ask for 10 days. That's what I typically do. And then, but in a busy market like we had 2 years ago, like I said, I was doing 300 for 3 days. It was crazy. And then I never fill this number one out. I don't deliver additional. I think there's been 1 or 2 times, so I don't want to even confuse you guys with that. It's just normally blank. And then the termination option period, that is the days. So like if I did 10 days for $100, I would put 10 days there. Title policy and the survey, same title company should be right here that is right here. And then typically, you notice I say typically, if you're writing it up, it's the seller's responsibility, but it's negotiable. Sometimes you could have the seller and the buyer and each party to be paying half. That's not custom, but it can be done depending on what market we're in. And then this is just an additional thing on the survey. I typically will say that it will be amended if it's land and they want that extra coverage to cover the shortages in the area of the property. But if it's just a normal lot in a normal neighborhood that's been sold several times, or even if it's brand new, like I don't even do that. So I just click that one. But if it's land, I do the bottom. And then I put seller to pay for that additional coverage. I'm not going to get into that right now. You can talk to your title company about that. All right. How are we doing on time? It's 11:30. Okay. So the survey, depending on if they included it or not, you got to just fill in those details accordingly. Objections. I always put 5 days right here, 3 to 5 days, depending on the market. But I want my buyer to be in the game too. Like I don't want to put 10 days. Like I've got as a listing agent, sometimes I get contracts and they put 10 days. Well, I'm not giving anybody 10 days to just sit on something. If they get the data, they can go over it. We can always extend something, but I typically put 3 to 5 days for that buyer to go over all the details as they get them and present any objections or cancellations for that matter, and still get their earnest money back. Okay, HOA. Is it in an HOA? Yes or no? If it is, you better make sure that you put the addendum that goes with it. Any other notices, go here. Property condition, sellers, this is the seller's disclosure notice. 9 times out of 10, you're going to already have it because that agent has uploaded it to the MLS. And then but I 9 times out of 10 check that the buyer accepts the property as is. Rarely do I check this one unless the reason why is because the option period is the buyer's time to do their due diligence and go over and have their inspections done. So I advise my clients, my buyers, let's not go in asking for repairs in the beginning. Like, let's get to that final inspection and ask for them all at once. But every once in a while, there will be a reason that you'll need to check this. And I'll give you an example. One time I went to a property and there was trash everywhere. And it said on the listing agreement that seller would pick up trash. So I did go ahead and put that seller to clear the property of any and all trash before closing, because I mean, I could have just wrote that in the other one, but since they put it on the MLS, they're already saying that they'll do it. That's when I put it here. If there's a $5,000 paint, seller must, you don't put that here because you put that somewhere else, but um, you can put things like that here. So I'll stop. I could go on and on about each one of these, you guys, until like tomorrow probably, but that's not the purpose of this class. Hopefully we're going to start having a Texas contracts class soon where our broker will go over this stuff, which that should be happening if you're with Epic, but it's not yet because, you know, we're just a baby company and we're growing like crazy. So we're getting there. So the broker, this is if anybody's related to anyone in the contract, you have to put your information here. The closing date goes here. And if you're going to take possession of the property at closing, you check this one. If there's a temporary residential lease, you're going to complete that and check this box. Special provisions. I was told by our attorney at KW years and years ago to please try to never put anything in special provisions. It's the number one area of the contract that causes lawsuits. And so there should be a place in the contract for everything to go. Every once in a while, I will put something in here, but I don't even have an example for you. I say just try to keep it blank. It's not, because usually agents will put stuff in here, but there's another place to put it. And this just gives you the agent a reason to make everything gray and not black and white, which is why lawsuits happen. So just try not to use the special provisions. This is where you put any closing costs, any allowances. So if there was a $5,000 carpet allowance, this is where you would put it, but it's always going to get applied to the buyer's expenses. So leave that up to the lenders and the title to figure out and work it all out. But this is where you put it. So if you're going to ask for closing costs, you have to get with the lender though, to make sure that they allow however much, or also how much are you going to need? This is why those discussions need to be made ahead of time as to what your buyer is going to need. All right, and then that's it, y'all. Like the buyer's information goes here. You most likely won't have all of the seller's info, but if you do have it, go ahead and fill it out. Make sure any addendums that you have said are going to be attached, that you come in here and attach them. Like you always have the third party finance addendum. If you're going to do a temporary lease, whatever, if it's conventional, you're going to have the addendum for the conventional loan, which I don't think, yeah, right here. This one is, if it's a conventional loan, you have to have this, this lender addendum for the appraisal. Everything else is wrote into the third-party finance addendum. So this is why you got to know your loans. And if you don't, and you're a new agent, I say get a lender and sit down with them and talk about all this stuff. They'll be happy to explain it all to you. They would love your business. So if you have a preferred lender, say, you know what, I'd really like you just to go over the contract with me and really explain to me what all of these loans are. So all good stuff. So then once you get that all filled out, then you're going to send this to your buyer to e-sign. Oh, your information goes here too, by the way. It should be filled in, but I guess my VA entered this and I didn't tell her to go do this part, or I didn't. But anyway, so other broker, if you represent the buyer, this is you. This is you. If you represent the seller, this is you. If it's intermediary, both of you are on this side. And you see it says seller and buyer as intermediary. That means that Epic represents the buyer and the seller. But if you're the buyer, all your data goes over here. And then if it's KW, their information goes over here and so on. So super easy to fill that out. And then don't forget to put your 3% here. You always want to make sure that you put your commission in here. And then that's it for the contract. Just make sure you attach any of the addendums that go with it. And then once everybody has signed it, it gets executed. Execution, this box right here is what executes this contract. So typically, you're the buyer, you're going to send it to the listing agent. The listing agent is going to look at it, most likely tell you, hey, I need you to change this, this, and this. And that's okay. You go change it. You have your buyer sign it again, give it to them. I like a clean offer. I don't like writing on my offers, and I just would rather redo that whole contract. Well, but you don't. When you go in, you're just going to redo what the seller's agent tells you to after everybody's negotiated on it. And then you will be able to have a clean, nice contract. So then the sellers, once you get it right, send it to them again. They're going to send it to their sellers to sign it after your buyers have signed it. And after everybody signed it, so it's most likely going to be the seller's agent that executes it. So she's going to execute it, and then she's going to create an email, send it to the title company, send it to you, and then on the next day or two, the buyers are going to take their earnest money and their option money to the title company, and then they're going to complete this page. This is the receipted page. So you're going to have an executed and receipted contract. And once that is all fully executed, fully receipted, everybody signed it, that means you could go ahead and upload it to your TC, email it to your TC, whatever you want it, whatever you are doing. So that means you have a valid contract, but know that the option period starts the day this is signed. The execution date is the effective date. That starts day one. And then that buyer has 3 days to get their money to the title company for them to do this. I just tell them, do it immediately. Do it like tomorrow. We don't want to mess around. So that's really the contract. So a lot to it. You can't take enough classes on it. You can't learn enough about it. Unfortunately, the best way to learn how to do this and know everything there is to know about it is experience. Experience is what makes a good realtor, but I'm helping you guys and giving you my experience of 20 years to help you write these. And yeah, so that's the contract. So let's go back over here. So we went over all of this. Now I want to give you guys my secret weapon. Da, 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 da. My secret weapon, and I think this is so important, is this timeline. Time is of the essence in so many areas of your real estate contracts, like your option period. When do we order the home warranty? When do we confirm with the lender that the appraisal's been ordered? When do we have the utilities shut off? And I forgot to pull this up ahead of time. So I'm going to go in here and go to timeline. Timeline. I want to find a blank one though. Somebody filled this in. Oh, this is a timeline for a property that had a situation. That's the wrong one. Hold on. Sorry. Timeline. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Timeline for master. I'm going to do this one. Buyer timeline. So I fill this out for every single offer that we have. And you can add details to this. You can remove some, whatever you want. But I put the executed date, the option when it expires. Upon receipt of survey and title policy, that's where I told you I usually put 5 days. Financing due by, that is where I usually do 21 days if it's my buyer. But this is what I give to my buyer. I say, okay, here's our timeline. Put this on your fridge. Closing on or before. Bring certified funds. And we're supposed to have another thing in here. This might be an old one that says make arrangements with the title company to, or the yeah, see, this one's more detailed. Call utility companies prior to closing. So you can just make your own, but this timeline is so important. Like just every date, everything on your contract that has a date, take a minute to sit down and fill this out. I will, for those of you that are on the call today, I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to share it with you so you could just go in, remove the logo, put your own logo on, and use this as your master copy. Okay. My gift for you, but anybody could just go in and make this. Pause this video, go in and create one. But I'm going to put this in the chat right now so that you can save this. You should be able to, there you go. But I got to change this. Anyone with the link. Done. Okay, so you both should be able to open that. All right, so that timeline is super important. By the time I get to closing, I create it and then I print it out and I keep it in my planner. And I will copy those dates over. When we used to have like 10 or more contracts at one time, like I lived off of this. And I needed to know what was going on at all times because I couldn't keep track. So that's great, but it's hectic. It gets hectic keeping track of more than 5 contracts. You need help with your business if you're doing more than 5 deals at a time. All right, let's go back over and go to the next slide. The next thing I advise is to create a checklist, a buyer checklist and a seller checklist. Every time you have a deal, just write down step by step what you want to do with that deal. My team and I use AYOA, and I'm just going to open this up and show you what we do, AYOA. So every time we have a buyer or a seller contract, this is what we do. Like this was a seller one that we have right here that just closed last week. So I'm going to just go ahead and use this one. So this is well, I have a template. So I have a seller template that we open first, but I just want to give you an example. I'm not going to share these because they're in AOA. I really can't, but you could see I've gone through and I have a team and I have partner agents. And so you could see the details. And I also have an assistant that does a lot of this stuff for me. Partner agent completes the seller info sheet. Set up the listing and listings to leads for pricing and strategy. My buyer one is different. Let's go find a buyer one. Hold on. I'm going to show you guys the template. Buyer template. Okay, so here's the buyer template. So this is the jobs that the TC does. This is the jobs that the buyer agent does. And so I don't even copy my buyer agent on these, but I just go over it with them and I'll check it off so that I kind of know what's going on with the contract as well. But my TC does all of this stuff on this side. But what we do is we created this as a template. And now all we got to do is go to this board and make a copy. And then we duplicate the board and then we rename it, whatever that contract is. And then I just work from that one. So super easy. I've used several different programs over the years. You can use an Excel spreadsheet if you want to. Doesn't really matter, but everybody's processes are different. So you're the one who, this is your business. And the beauty of this being your business is you get to create things that you want. So you could just start a list that says show homes. I mean, whatever, but these all came in time and over a lot of time and a lot of contracts and a lot of heartache and headache too, you guys, because this game isn't easy. So let's go back over here. So create a checklist and that's it. I was going to do homework and I wanted the homework to be you guys going in and filling out a contract and sending that to me. So if you want to do that, great. If not, no big deal. But if you want to go that extra mile and do that as a homework, I will be happy to look it over with you. I'll be happy to jump on a Zoom with you if you want and help you in any way that I ever can. So That is it for week number 3. So week number 4, next week, we are going to talk about the closing, what to do to get this buyer that you just went through all of this with. What do you do for closing? I just decided to save that for the end, and because we're going to go through the process of closing, but then also getting them onto your VIP database and taking care of them from this point on. Like, I think of my job as building my VIP database. I'm not doing any other kind of lead generation other than that at this point in my career. But at other points, I had all kinds of different funnels flowing into my business. But my goal was always to get them through it in a way where I could add them to my VIP database and they love me. So that was not always the case. Sometimes I wanted to kill buyers, like not really kill them, but you know what, like beat them up, something, right? But it's they don't go on my VIP database. Like, I don't want them ever again, and I don't want anyone that they know. So when you start to build your VIP database, that's what that looks like. And you get to be a little bit more selective at that point on who you work with. But I get that in the beginning, some of you, like, you just want a contract and you don't care. And I was at that point at one time too in my career. So I'm going to stop recording